Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'd like to welcome you officially to this webinar on using Artivism to transform pain to power as part of Musawah's global conference on Muslim family law reform. Thank you to everyone joining from all over the world from your device of choice. Now, before we begin, I have some housekeeping rules for the folks tuning into our Zoom webinar today. So the first one is this webinar will be in English and Arabic interpretation is also available. All you have to do is just click on the globe at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says interpretation and switch to the Arabic audio channel. And don't forget to mute the original audio, okay? All right, rule number 2. Our audience will be muted throughout this webinar so that we have all that space that we need to actually listen to what our panelists have to say right now for this session, of course. Rule number 3, the Zoom webinar is being live streamed to Musawah's Facebook account, and it will also be recorded and made available afterwards on Musawah's YouTube channel. So if you're watching right now on Facebook, you can click share, have a viewing party, and you can also share it after this when it is uploaded on the Musawah's Facebook, yeah? And last but not least, rule number 4, the format today will be a 50-minute conversation among our panelists, followed by a 20-minute audience question and answer session. So if you have any questions, you may enter your question at any time into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to get to it in that last half an hour before the end of our session. And please don't use the chat function to ask your question. Let's save that for folks who need technical assistance like me, like all of us. And also to share links that we'll be sharing concerning our works, inspirations, and more. So we're done with housekeeping. Now, I'm sure you are wondering, who is this person speaking on the screen? Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sheena Baharudin, and I am a poet. I'm a multimedia artist. I am a performer and educator from Malaysia. I've been writing, performing, teaching poetry for more than a decade. And as a practitioner of the arts, my works have always been motivated by a personal belief that what I do is not just for myself, but for something that is much, much bigger. It is an extension of my identities as a woman, as a Muslim, and as a feminist, a response to the injustice that I see around me, as well as a desire to be part of a movement that empowers communities to find solutions to social issues, basically and essentially to transform pain to power. And today's session is an exploration of that idea, that artists have always been and are part of a larger conversation on the intersections of art and activism on human rights, religion, and patriarchy. So what drives and motivates a person to produce art, specifically art that advocates for change? How can art revitalize advocacy efforts to advance social justice issues? And I'm really, really excited to address these questions with our panelists today. So perhaps we can have your faces on. We have the illustrator and cartoonist from Sudan, Alaa Satir. We have singer-songwriter from France, Azzmia. Hello, Azzmia. Brilliant. We have singer-songwriter from Egypt, Felukah. And last but not least, we have Sonaksha Iyengar, an illustrator and graphic recorder from India. Hello, panelists. Hello. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling today, Sonaksh? Oh, I know. I think we're all very excited. Oh, there's so many things that we do need to talk about. So thank you so much for saying yes to this webinar. And I really do look forward to the sort of answers that all of you will be giving. And I also particularly look forward to the questions that we will be receiving from the audience, aka you who are watching right now. Okay, so shall we begin, everyone? Great. So let us begin with question number one. Now, because I didn't really say much except for your name, what you do, and where you're from. So please, for question number one, can you introduce yourselves and touch on some of the social justice issues that you choose to amplify through your art? Perhaps we can start with Azzmia. Go ahead, Azzmia.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here today. So I'm Azzmia, and I'm a singer, a songwriter, and a composer. To me, music is a platform that I use to empower and to really create space for expression and celebration of who we are. As a Black Muslim woman and a self-produced artist, I like to talk about underrepresented stories, especially the ones of women of colors, because I think that they are the most affected by society standards. Women of colors are constantly told how they should live their life, how they should behave, dress, and even talk. And my first single and my debut album, Celebration, is a way to take us on a journey to find ourselves and to really accept ourselves through powerful and poetic themes such as self-love, representation, and empowerment. It's an invitation for women to be unapologetic and to embrace who they are.
I love that, unapologetic. By the way, I listened to your new single, Celebration. That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for that song. Okay, thank you, Azzmia. Thank you. And what about you, Alaa? Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. How are you? So I'm Alaa Satir. I'm from Sudan. I'm an illustrator and a graphic designer and a cartoonist. As you actually said earlier, that my work, I feel like, is an extension of who I am. So it talks mainly about, it has women at the center of it, whether it's in a direct or an indirect way. And it talks about women issues in general. So from the definition of womanhood and how narrow it is and how narrow the beauty standards are, to bigger issues like sexual-based violence and FGM. And yeah, basically that's the main theme in most of my work. Also being a Black woman, racial injustice. Sometimes I talk about mental health. So these are like the main themes behind my work.
All right, thank you so much. I actually, I've been stalking every single one of you, and I saw that you are part of this project, street art project, yeah? So yeah, I look forward to finding out more about that. Thank you so much, Anna. Let's ask Felukah. Go ahead, Felukah.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Felukah. I'm an Egyptian rapper and singer-songwriter based in New York mainly, but also in Cairo. I just want to point out that it's raining like super heavy in Cairo right now, which is super rare. And it's kind of beautiful. This kind of just happened suddenly. It's wild. This never happens, but I think it's just maybe just the celebration of right now, it's like a lot of release, and release is so important for the earth and for us. Some social justice issues I like to cover in my work are definitely like embedded in nature. So vulnerability as strength is a really big one that I want to focus on. And I think that's just like politically, just like across all countries, is something that we work on as a human race. I definitely like to focus on issues of women's empowerment, as an Arab woman, as a Muslim woman, as a person of color anywhere in the world. We have so much still to fight for, and so much that we've been fighting for, but we now have more and more platforms to express that. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great. So, I mean, if we were to go through the chat box right now, I think we have a few fans of yours, Felukah. Just really happy to see you on screen. Yay! Okay, great. And last but not least, Sonaksha, go ahead.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here amidst such amazing folks and artists. I'm an illustrator, graphic recorder, and designer from India. I think through my art, I'm particularly interested in exploring queerness, mental health care, gender, body image, identities. And yeah, I really hope to contribute to social justice movements by visually documenting them and also dreaming of the worlds that we want to live in. So yeah, that's about me, I think.
I think we are all dreaming of a better world. And what's really beautiful of this session right now is that all of you are artists who are using your chosen art or medium to amplify all of these issues, which of course brings me to this next question. Now, it goes without saying that art has been and still is a powerful tool for social change. I mean, the term artivism, or artistic artivism, I mean, it came about in the 1990s and is clearly understood as a way to engage people to bring about change. Now, what I'd like to know is this. Do you consider yourself as an artivist? I think we'll ask that question to Sonaksha first. Go ahead, Sonaksha.
Okay, so I think perhaps sharing a little about the process might answer this question better. For me, art really kind of came from a place of personal liberation, whether that was like making art about daily life with mental illnesses or thinking about what it means to occupy a fat body in an ableist and anti-fat world. And a lot of art making for me is about asking questions, sharing realities, and telling stories that are constantly challenging like normative narratives that are often oppressive. So I think art is really at the center of many kinds of resistance. And cultural resistance has always in some way been part of movements. And for me, the process of making art and the final piece itself is always really political. So a lot of my art is about telling stories, but I think what was sort of an important point for me was to kind of recognize that I'm engaging and holding space for people who are interacting with this art. And there's so much possibility there in that space to kind of like really rejig the narratives that kind of exist in society as we are right now. So so I think some of the questions that I really think about is like, how do we make space for the bodies and beings that don't fit within our normative worlds? So like, for instance, this illustration that you saw, that was about queerness. This one's about, productivity, which is like very much a part of like the capitalist world we live in. And yeah, and I think maybe it's not about having all the answers. It's about like making space for the questions and to kind of have, to ask from each other and to learn from each other with openness. And yeah, and I think maybe like I've been thinking a lot about community care. And I think maybe community care is about like centering each other's needs and gifts and building relationships that are based in reciprocity. So yeah, a lot of my work does kind of surround these themes, which I think kind of like largely answers the question about like whether like whether I use my art as like an artivist, which I think I do.
I mean, what I really like about your answer just now is that you've pointed out the importance of asking questions, and that's pretty much one of the role of art in the first place, to ask the big and important questions. So that's really, really amazing. And I just love how your art is so colorful. And it has this celebratory spirit to it. So that's really, really great. Now, I would like, thank you, Sonaksha. Now, I wanted to ask Felukah, but apparently the rain, which is a blessing in Egypt, has become so bad that it cut off her Wi-Fi connection. So while we're waiting for her to get back online, I'm going to ask the question to Azzmia. So Azzmia, what are the questions that you ask through your art? Ooh. Let's wait, because Azzmia is looking at me, but not saying, oh, there you go. Hello, Azzmia, can you hear me?
Yes, my micro was up, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, so we want to know, I mean, do you consider yourself as an artivist, and what sort of questions that you ask as you are producing your work?
Yeah, so actually, I was saying that when Alex from Musawah contacted me to be a panelist for this session, I asked her if I participate because the topic is definitely interesting, like using artivism to transform pain to power. But the thing is, I do not really define myself as an artivist, even if I do consider art as a powerful tool for transformation. I mean, any form of art, whether it's paintings, theater, drawing, and songs, can definitely build bridges between people. It can connect people all around. But I think that the way I position myself is more as maybe only an artist, if I can say that, because I can definitely tackle some social issues in my lyrics and raise awareness on different topics. But I think my first goal is to make people think and to question. So it certainly has an impact at individual level, but maybe activism is more about doing things collectively. And actually, I would love to hear about your thoughts, Alaa, on these topics, Felukah.
Okay, yeah. So Alaa, what's your take on that? Do you consider yourself, do you position yourself as an artivist?
I take that term a bit lightly, to be honest. Like, I'm very aware that my work talks about women, communicates to women. So, and I talk about social and racial injustices, but at the same time, I kind of take it a bit lightly, the word artivism or artivist, just because I don't want to find myself in a place where I'm forcing a conscious message in my work just to live up to that label, or because that's what is expected of me, because I've been doing this work. So people expect that every artwork that I do has to have a very, very easily read and very direct message, empowering message behind it. I think the thing that I aspire my work to always be is authentic. So at the end of the day, if the artwork is considered or viewed as empowering or not, at the end of the day, I'm just very mindful that it comes from a good place and from an honest place. And sometimes as artists, you do things and you don't have an agenda behind it. You don't know exactly where it's going, or well, I'm doing this because of that. And that work matters too. So we don't have to dismiss that because you don't have an elaborate, very eloquent agenda behind it, that it's there to serve a certain cause. Doing art for the sake of creating is enough, and doing work just because you want to do it, just because it feels right in the moment, not because it's following a certain topic, or because you're expected to do a certain type of work, is also enough. So that's why I just like to relieve myself of the pressure of being an artivist, just because, yeah, I do work that advocates for certain issues, but sometimes I do work for the sake of it. And that's also equally matters to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, that's the same case with me as well, where there is a difference, you know, especially when it comes to writing poetry. I mean, there are poems that I do share with others, and there are just poems that I keep to myself because I have to create.
Yes,
yeah, so
yes.
I really like that perspective. Thank you.
And these poems are equally important. Like, it's not gonna get maybe the same buzz in social media or something, because sometimes certain works you have to read between the lines, or it could be interpreted differently from one person to another. So people dismiss them easily, because maybe it's easier when you have a very easily read direct message behind your work. But that's equally beautiful and equally important.
Yeah, the important part is that we are creating.
Yes.
And you're expressing yourself creatively.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back, Felukah. Felukah, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
Yes. Sorry, guys. The
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. I think I cursed the Wi-Fi when I was like, "Look at the rain," and then it just like trashed my network. But we're back now.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad that you're back because we are asking the question, do you consider yourself as an artivist? Does it matter that you position yourself as one?
I just want to say, I think Alaa, that was a beautiful response. I definitely identify with that. I think that at the core of it, I started off trying to make conscious rap or conscious hip hop, and soon realized that I didn't need that conscious prefix because my art, stands for itself. And should, listeners come into it and see that it is conscious and see that it is alternative, that is their own deduction. That's something that they can associate with my work. But as long as it does come from that place that Alaa was speaking of that authenticity, then it hardly matters how it's going to be masked, once it emerges as an art piece. But I think as a general standpoint, I do try to embed, like we said, social justice issues and things that I see askew in my universe that I would like to fix, or that I would like to see fixed if it's beyond my control. And so, I just think Alaa's response is just hit the golden jackpot. That's exactly what my thoughts exactly.
Great. Yeah, I mean, when you mention words such as authenticity, yeah, I totally relate with that. But one word that Alaa said particularly resonates with me, which is, the intention behind producing whatever that you produce, regardless of your mediums. And you put the intention, if it has a good intention, and no matter what you bring out, regardless of that, there is always a possibility that there will be criticism, specifically regarding to works that have a very strong message to it. Ones, regarding issues that people might consider as controversial, so they might not like what you are putting out there. So, which brings me to the next question, and which is great because I'm going to ask Alaa first. So, the question is this: has there been any pushback, any criticism or negative responses directed as your work as an artist? And if so, do you have any strategies that are in place to respond to them?
I consider myself lucky that I didn't get that much backlash on my work. It doesn't happen that often. And I have to say the positive and support and positive remarks, they are much more than the negative. That being said though, of course, you're gonna have like few people who are gonna not like what you're gonna say or what you're doing. And I encountered that, which is not surprising when I was doing street art, and especially in Sudan, because the street is usually very much dominated by men. So for a woman to take any sort of place in the public space, or to take space in the public, it's not something that is very common. Especially if you're out there painting what is considered a feminist message, or something that's directed only to women, or it looks like you're just talking to women and not including men in the conversation, which is something that some men feel a bit aggressive towards. So I got a few comments and it ranges from something as aggressive as maybe photoshopping my work to make it mean something else, yeah, or or something as when I'm painting, like, why is your message only directed to women? Why are you not including us in this mural? And my response to that is, of course, like there's 100 other murals that talks about protesters who are men and women, or only men, and let me just dedicate this one or two murals to women and what they're doing. And because they were doing great work and they were in the front line of every protest, I mean, they at least deserve a mural or two. So like, deal with it. But yeah, these are like mainly the comments that I get, but nothing very aggressive. And I try as much as I can to, if it's approached in a good way, that I turn it into a conversation, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. you want to have a good conversation with people, and you reach somewhere or you don't. But yeah, I try to approach it with a nice conversation, unless of course it's something as aggressive as changing my work or something. Yeah.
Wow, that's intense. And that's the thing. I mean, when it comes to producing art, you do want to sort of raise questions. You're going to ask, again, you're going to ask the big questions and you want to get a reaction from people. But I think more importantly is there is this need, at least personally for me, to start a conversation. I mean, have a dialogue, have a conversation about it, figure things out, rather than just being 100% reactive to something. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. Which is not always easy, because if someone is criticizing your work, and as an artist, you definitely have some sort of ego, So it's not easy to approach it with a nice conversation. But it's definitely something that I always try to remind myself of, that try to make a conversation out of this and try to reach somewhere at least.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's really interesting. And what about you, Felukah? Have you received any negative feedback on your work?
Oh, all the time, lots and all the time. I think men take issue with seeing, yeah, definitely like strong or insecure men. Let me reword that. Insecure men are threatened by strong women, and so I seem to attract a lot of them on my general page. Whenever I'm featured in like a publication, especially if it's local and Arab, it attracts a lot of the wrong crowd. I'm not gonna lie. And but then the thing is, like, you know, the comments sometimes. Sorry, I'll slow down for the interpreters. The comments sometimes are indicative of the level of just ignorance, really, of the people that it's coming from. It's like, yo, why is this girl rapping when she should be in the kitchen? Or why, like, what's she even doing? Like, girls can't rap. What is the, and it's just like, you know, you don't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from. And so you just start building a barrier that's like, you're not going to affect me. Oh, and you know, I'm accepting love and I'm accepting positive feedback at all times, because that's art, that's artistry, is constantly growing and evolving. But we start learning, you know, how better to let things in and keep things out. That's boundaries, you know, and that's protecting our energy. So as you know, as much as I will keep pushing the boundaries, so you said anything strong will attract that controversy, to attract that, you know, people who are resistant to change. And I just say F them, you know, and let it fuel us and empower us to keep pushing our message. Absolutely, I get a lot of criticisms all the time and hate, and if anything, it teaches me to power on stronger.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've had so many times when people assume that this persona that you have on social media or when you're performing, that you're this strong woman, and no matter what you say to them, they will not be affected by it at all. But no, I'm a human being. I am affected by it emotionally too. And again, I think it's really important to sort of highlight this idea that we need to start having a conversation, that the art is out there for a reason, and interpretations may differ. But especially now with social media, you have this opportunity to sort of reach out to the artists on social media platforms and ask them right on, instead of just doing something else. Yeah. So that's really interesting. And I just wanted to share with all of you my own experience. A lot of people tend to assume that when you are doing poetry, that it is a very isolated experience and you're just sort of in a corner writing, drinking coffee and not sleeping at night. But as a performance poet, you do have to go out. And just like Alaa, we also do street poetry here, and it can be such a scary experience. And when I perform poetry, I've had criticism directed towards me, and it went to a level where I was kicked out from the university that I was teaching, because according to them, I was a bad role model, that I was a bad Muslim woman for speaking out about all these issues that were occurring in my community. So while some of us might not get the brunt of that sort of criticism, like others may have, and it sort of, again, explains why the idea of using art as a form of activism might not be an idea that is easily or fully embraced by people. Whenever they think about art, they say, okay, it's all about me expressing myself, and that's completely fine, but nothing more than that, because it can be really scary to put yourself out there. So kudos to all of you for putting yourself out there. And I want to know, what about you, Azzmia? How is your reaction? How has your experience been so far?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that I didn't receive any, bad comments or backlash, and I would say not yet, because it's been less than a month since I released my first single, Celebration. But I know that in France and in Belgium, there are a few Black women singers who speak out about social justice issues like Lucendo Yakuza or Isolt, and they are denouncing, for example, racism, sexism, or we are talking about the lack of representation in the music industry. But they are often criticized not because of their work, but because of who they are as Black women. So many times attacking their identity as Black women is a way of denigrating their work. And it really reminds me of a quote from Toni Morrison, which says, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. And I think I don't want to be in a place where I have to justify for myself over and over again. And I feel like one of the strategies to find balance is to find balance so that I don't spend too much time and too much energy, because it's a lot of energy to respond to racist comments or provocations from haters. But I better spend my time promoting my work and connect to those who can echo to my music, rather than the ones who just want to to make me feel bad or to criticize without any constructive remarks.
Definitely. That's brilliant, Azzmia. Okay, and what about you, Sonaksha?
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself. Yes, I was just thinking about what Azzmia was saying. And I feel like that's kind of what I feel about how, like, our bodies are sort of inherently political. Like, even if I'm not creating, like, a lot of the work that I create is just like a reflection of my own journey, just my own like self-expression, etc. Especially the work that I'm creating, like, and sharing on Instagram and stuff like that. It is a lot about my own journey, but I feel like it is inherently political because I am a queer person living in a region where queerness is still punished. I am a fat person living in an anti-fat world. So I feel like whatever I create is political, regardless of whether I intend it to be. And coming to like the responses, yes, there have been a lot of um, hate comments. And I think especially in South Asia, we are living in times where human rights defenders, artists, creative thinkers are constantly prosecuted for dissent of any kind. There's almost no funding for activism and art, let alone any kind of art that challenges oppression. And there's so much like censorship and targeted hate towards anyone who remotely wants to like challenge the status quo. So for instance, the art that you see on the left is something that I kind of made around like earlier this year. There were a series of protests that were happening across India against NRC, CAA, UAPA, and the Trans Act. And there was so much brutality that protesters faced and continue to face like till today. And as someone who couldn't occupy the streets due to chronic illness and chronic pain, I didn't know what else to do, rather like other than to like make intentional art about it. So I used like whatever platforms I had to just share fundraisers, to constantly make posters that folks could take on the street, and to keep the dialogue going. And again, I think like when I made art sometime last year, at the end of last year, about standing with Kashmir through their demand for self-determination and through the internet shutdown that happened, which was, I think, one of the longest in any democracy. There was so many threats that came in, so much slut shaming that happened, a lot of like morphing of images and morphing of art, like what Alaa said. And it continues to come. Like people will still discover something that I created then and like continue to send me like death threats and like rape threats and things like that. So, and I think this happens to like most creators in South Asia who really dare to like stand up to something that the government is doing, or to challenge anything, or express dissent in any way. And in terms of strategies, I think like having a support network of like friends and peers, and largely like an internet community for me, especially like as a person who's had like chronic illness for really long, like my internet community has been a huge part of it. And I think we're kind of able to support each other, like whether that's making space for rants, or even like showing up for each other in the comments, you know, when there's like so many people commenting hateful stuff, to have like equal amount of like people who are supporting you is kind of like a really powerful thing. So so yeah, I think that's kind of the strategies I've been using so far. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I like what you mentioned about having this community, a supportive sort of support system that you have, especially through the community who support you with your art, the ones that get together either online or offline. And I'm wondering about the rest of you. Maybe for Alaa, where do you get your support from? What or who is your support system? I'm just throwing in a question there.
Yeah. Well, surprisingly, most of the support is from, as Sonaksha said, like from people from social media who don't even know me personally, who comment on my work and share my work and excited to see me doing things, or and it's really, really touching because it makes me feel like they are really there to support my work. They don't have anything to gain from it. They don't even know me personally, and it's really touching. Of course, I have my friends and family who are supportive as well, but that support you get from strangers, I don't know, it just touches you differently, I feel.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, yeah.
And because they're not obligated to support you, or because they genuinely maybe like what you're doing, and that makes me feel really good. So yeah.
I think it also kind of connects to the futures that we all are dreaming of, right? Where we like show up for each other in these ways and are kind to each other and really support each other. And it is all about community. So yeah, I think that's why it matters so much more when it comes from
Exactly,
strangers.
because you can get away with bashing someone on social media or something, but you choose not to, and you choose to support them. That says a lot. So yeah, that kind of support, of course, it means a lot to me.
Perfect. And what about you, Felukah?
I want to highlight that a big chunk of my support system is on this call right now. It's my best friend in the world, Farah Khairat, who supported me since day one. And she just, you know, on every level, has just been with me as like a person, as an artist, as a concept, as just everything. And so like, I just need to shout her out. I think all my close friends really and my family, I make music with my brother and my sister. So it comes from the home, and it just travels onwards. Of course, it's so beautiful to see, you know, when people you hardly even know are just out there to support you and push your music forward. You're like, wow, like you must just really like this because you don't know me. So that's always a wild feeling, like you were saying, Alaa. But I would be nowhere without my mother and without my best friend, without my sister, without my family, because they give me the strength to just like wake up every day and just try. Because everyone else, you know, is just like, you can't do that, but somebody got to believe in you somewhere at first so that you can just believe that you are enough.
Right. Thanks, Azzmia. And what about, oh, sorry, not Azzmia. Thanks, Felukah. And what about you, Azzmia?
Yeah, so definitely, I definitely receive a lot of support from my family and my friends. So, and to me, it's very important because also as a self-produced artist, so you kind of do everything on your own. So it's really important to have a very supportive people around you. So to me, it's been a very interesting journey to me, and so I really also want to thank the people who listen to my music, because like all of you said, it's in a way it's so strange that some people that absolutely don't know you and that are living abroad can connect to your music or your heart, and I think it's very touching.
Lovely. Okay. Now, we were talking about support system. Now, in order to have this support system, you're also talking about reaching out and making yourself vulnerable. Vulnerability is also part of authenticity, and also a source of strength as well, which is, of course, going to bring me to a round of, it's called a lightning round. And what this means is that I will be asking you 2 questions, and each one of you will have about 60 seconds, 1 minute to answer the question, okay? All right, so let's start with the first one. And it is about social media, because all of y'all are social media savvy. Yeah, now, which platform do you believe has the biggest outreach and the highest engagement, particularly with the issues that you choose to focus on in your work? Sonaksha.
I think Instagram and Twitter definitely right now. I feel like there's 2 very different communities on both these spaces, and both of them are equally important to me. And they kind of show up for me in different ways and also support me in very different ways. But yeah, I think it's been really lovely to see people engaging with the art that I've been creating in whatever way possible. And I must say, like, honestly, I began creating art on the internet, like creating stuff and sharing it on the internet when I was 10. So I have like evolved through different sorts of platforms. But yeah, right now, I think Instagram and Twitter.
Perfect. And what about you, Felukah?
Yeah, I have to second that for sure. I'm very active on Instagram because I feel people are on it all the time, and they are. So like I'll post something and immediately it's getting engagement, people are reacting to it. That said, it's not my favorite thing that it is so hyperactive and that we can engage so quickly, thinking that it's such an authentic, clear connection. But these are apps at the end of the day, they're not a full accurate representation of ourselves. And so with that in mind, like I'm hyperactive on Instagram and I'm not super proud of it and I want to cut it down. I will say that.
Okay. And what about you, Azzmia?
I'm also, yes, more active on Instagram. Actually, I'm a little bit afraid of Twitter because I mean, I see a lot of backlash, or you know, I feel like haters are more aggressive on Twitter, maybe, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I think as Instagram, I like it because it's focused on visual, and I think it's a beautiful way also to connect to other audiences. But I really feel you, Felukah, on the fact that. Actually, I'm not a big fan of social media, but I think it's a powerful way to reach audiences and to be vocal about what I want to speak about. But I'd rather not be on this social media platform. But I do it because I really want to connect to other people.
Right, agree. Last but not least, Alaa.
ينبغي للقول أزمية أني أفضل انستغرام. لا أعرف لماذا يتعامل الناس بكل هذه القسوة على تويتر، ولكني أفضل.
And you post the same thing on the same, like Instagram and Twitter, and then people are mean there and nice here. I don't know why, but in general, I'm not someone who's really good with words, so that's why I don't use Twitter that much, because it's for people who have so much to say. But
I'm scared of Twitter.
I'm a visual person and I rely on my drawings to say whatever I want to say. So that's why I use Instagram more. In general, I don't love social media that much. So because I feel like using it too much can get you in a negative mindset sometimes. So I try to use it in moderation and not be there all the time. I did cut social media for the past 6 months, and it was good, and I recommend it. It's really good. It's something, because engaging with people that much, reading comments all the time, seeing what people are doing, feeling guilty because you're not doing as much sometimes, and can be draining. So taking some time off is very important. And that was more than 1 minute. Sorry.
I wasn't checking the time at all. Right, but yeah, I mean, okay, now before we move on to the second lightning round, not second lightning round, the second question of the lightning round. Yeah, I'm really interested in this break from social media. So Alaa has already mentioned to all of us, said that she's been off for 6 months. I've been off for 3 months, and it's great. It was rough in the beginning. You know, you keep on wanting to check your phone, but now, okay. What about you, Sonaksha? When was the last time you had a break?
So I actually am on the other side of it. I actually feel like social media is a very important part of communication for me because, like I said, so much of my community does live online because I can't leave my bed or house most of the days. So yeah, like taking a break from social media would kind of be like isolating myself from all the humans in my life, which I can't do. So yeah, I think I have like found a way to strike a balance between like communicating with people and also taking time off when I need to in a way where it's not like an elongated period of time, where I kind of do that like on each day. So I'll spend like half an hour on each platform at like the max. So yeah, I think that really kind of is where I'm at with the social media break thing. But I totally get why it can be such a huge thing for some people. Yeah.
Okay, and Azzmia, do you only have Instagram, or do you use other apps as well?
Yes, I'm using Instagram. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, but most of the time I'm on Instagram, and I try also to moderate my consumption of social media because I think it's really draining. So
yeah, right. And Felukah, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely open conversation I have a lot with my friends and with my family. That I want to spend less time on it, and I've put that into practice very recently, where it's like just that hour of engagement, come in, do the post, you know, you do the back and forth with everybody, because, you know, like Sonaksha was saying, this is the main way to communicate right now, is virtually through social media, especially in Corona, where you can't just easily walk into your friend's house, go meet at a party. Like, that's not happening. But that said, yeah, the real world is so much more. So I'm actively trying to figure that out, and I have faith.
All right, good. Second question, creative collaborations, okay? Now, if you could collaborate with one artist outside of your field or discipline, someone who really inspires you, who would it be and why? Felukah.
I would collaborate with an Egyptian graphic artist, Bahia Shiheb, who she started the blue bra movement. She graffitied blue bras all over Cairo when during the revolution, a woman was harassed by police and essentially dragged through the streets in nothing but her blue bra. And it was just a wild, wild moment for like women everywhere, but especially for Egyptian women, which is just like crazy. And so she's, to me, just like a pinnacle of so much like women's empowerment and artistic expertise. She teaches at the American University in Cairo. She's just like mad cool. So I would love to collaborate with her.
Perfect. Okay, and what about you, Alaa?
I think I have a long list, but I'll pick one.
Okay.
There's a French artist called JR. And check him out. He is one of the first people that got me very interested in the idea of art as street art or public art. Then it doesn't have to be the traditional way. He's a photographer, and he puts a lot of big pictures and portraits of people that he goes. He works in different places, basically, and he works in different countries with different communities, and he uses their pictures to send some sort of social message sometimes, but it's a very subtle not in your face way. And it's a very visually pleasing. And he done some really great things and really great projects all over the world, and just made me look at street art a bit differently. And yeah, that's the first person I thought about when you said the question. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And what about you, Sonaksha?
Honestly, I don't have one person. I think I have a lot of people, but perhaps I would say that I'd like to collaborate maybe with more people and organizations working in research, animation, technology, new media, coding, and writing, I think, amongst others. So yeah.
Okay, nice. And Azzmia?
Yes, I think I would love to collaborate with Anissa Lalahun, which is a French Algerian painter and calligraphist. And what I like about her work is because she's talking about a double culture, and she's hiding some message in her calligraphy. So if you see her paintings, you'll not be able to read what she means. But she said there are some words that are hide inside my painting. So I think it's a very interesting work that she does.
Great. Man, creative collaborations. I feel that it just, even the thought of it, energized me. Because I think
what about you, Sheena? Do you have someone?
I have so many. But what I'm looking at right now is the idea of working with dancers. I've always wanted to work with dancers, and not just any dancers. Really, I don't know why, but I've been dreaming about it lately. But maybe Felukah is my Aquarian side. I dream of things that I want to do. I don't know. But yeah, I'm thinking more about traditional dances, probably like Bharatanatyam, Odyssey, Zapin. It'll be really interesting to sort of merge words with movement. That's what I have in mind. Okay, right. Thank you for asking me that question, Sonaksha. Okay, now it is 8:51 Kuala Lumpur time. That means we've been doing this for the past 50 minutes and it doesn't feel like it at all. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is as you are watching us right now, all of you out there, if you have any questions, please do put your question in the QA box. Reason why is that we are almost at the end. I'm asking our beautiful, amazing, inspiring panelists the last question of this webinar today. And that question is, okay, it's going to start with a quote. And that's because I love words. And the quote is by the renowned Black feminist and social activist, Bell Hooks, who wrote, "The function of art is to do more than tell it like it is. It is to imagine what is possible," just like Sonaksha, who has been like peppering our session throughout with the idea of imagining the world, what the world is going to be, a better world, and sort of, through the art that you do, channel that energy through is almost as if it's like a form of visualization, if you will. So a year ago, the reason why I'm citing Bell Hooks is because a year ago, none of us would have imagined that we will be where we are right now. I mean, last year I was out and about, I was doing projects here and there, hanging out and then getting really drained because there's so many people and go back and hide in my room for 2 days. But now it's completely different because of the pandemic. So please do share with us, what is the main challenge that you faced since the pandemic hit the world? And why is it so important to continue producing art during this difficult days? Let's start with Azzmia. Go ahead.
I love the quote. It inspires me, and I think it really gives hope. And I think art is a powerful tool to give hope, especially during hard times. But I think the main challenge I faced was first to realize what was going on and to know how to cope with these unique circumstances and uncertainty. To me, producing art is very important during these difficult times. We see many studies have proved the positive impact of art for mental health, on our sense of hope, self-worth, and well-being. And I deeply believe that art is a beautiful way to acknowledge and express our emotions the way we feel on a personal level. I've always just writing ever since I was a child to express my feelings. And so I think art creates space for vulnerability, and that you don't have to feel shameful for what you're feeling right now. There are no bad emotions. You don't have to apologize for feeling low, sad, anxious. A lot of people complain during the lockdown about the productivity tool that was promoted on social media. And I share my reflections on Instagram about it because I was tired of seeing posts giving you tips to make the best of your time during lockdown. I was like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've never lived this situation before. And all what you're thinking about is like, don't waste your time, do something. You absolutely have to do something. And I think nothing happens without a reason. And the situation, in a way, forced us to really reconnect to our emotions, to do an introspective exploration. And to me, art is a tool that helps us reconnect to our souls. It doesn't matter if you are the one producing art or if you are the one receiving it. It's all about connection. So this is definitely a message that I'm trying to share through my music. And my first single, Celebration, and my upcoming album, which I call Celebration 2, are an invitation to celebrate who you are and also where you are, no matter where you are right now, because life is not a competition between people, but rather a quest to be a better person and to find out what drives you, what makes you want to wake up every morning. And there's also a song in my upcoming album, which is called Kintsugi. And I love this idea because Kintsugi, it's a Japanese art, actually, that echoes to this idea of embracing our emotions. And so the Japanese art way of putting broken pottery pieces back together with gold, built on the idea that in embracing flaws and imperfections, you can create an even stronger, a more beautiful piece of art. And it beautifully reminds me that your scars, whether visible or not, are proof that you have overcome your difficulties. So we'll definitely overcome COVID-19, inshallah. And so I think it's something that really echoes to me.
All right, thank you so much, Azzmia. That was beautiful. Okay, now what about you, Alaa?
Okay, so I think I relate so much to what Azzmia said, that in the end of the day, it's a pandemic, and in a way, I just kind of allowed myself to slow down. It's fine. I mean, I came here, I changed countries. I came from Sudan to UK to study. And of course, that's not the year I had in mind. I thought that it's going to go differently. But then, of course, all of us did. And it's fine to sometimes slow down and not be in full productive mode. Like, that's why I unplugged from social media for a while, and I just lived in complete isolation. But it kind of benefited me in a way. And I tried with my work to be more fluid, as I said before, like not follow a certain agenda. So just draw whenever I feel like it, and in every canvas that I find in my room. I spent a very long time in a very small room, which was my dorm room. So I just spent time drawing in mirrors and drawing in different surfaces around the room. I called it the project 3 Days of Claustrophobia, because that room used to make me really claustrophobic when I first moved in. And then I had to spend, of course, lockdown in it. So I kind of draw every day and stick the drawings around me in the room. And I had fun doing that. And it wasn't for a project, it wasn't for a campaign, it wasn't for anything other than me just expressing my daily feelings. And sometimes I don't even draw them, I write them down. And yeah, that's what I did during lockdown. Other than working on my school projects, of course.
Wow, that looks amazing. That's such a great creative project, individual project to give oneself, right? Well, probably not 30 days of claustrophobia, was it?
Yeah, it was more than 30 days, but I felt like it felt catchy. That is 30 days of claustrophobia.
Whole year.
Yeah, it
Looking
was
at how it's
basically a
going
year.
the whole year. Okay, thanks, Alaa.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sonaksha, what about you?
I think one of the things that really kind of stood out to me at the beginning of the pandemic is how I kind of had to continue working through it. So I didn't have like the chance to take time off, because as like a freelancer, like you have to kind of continue working through it. And it also became difficult because there were a lot of assignments that were getting cancelled because people were running out of funds, etc. But I think I did also learn to kind of allow myself some kindness, which is something I struggle with a lot. So, for instance, this illustration that you see was very much about how we're all just like, I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was so many webinars, so many like Zoom sessions, and like everything was moving online. So I think it just felt like I had not looked out of my like actual window, and I was just like constantly looking through my screen. And these illustrations were part of like a guide, or like a guide for Pride. And yeah, so I think apart from doing like work related projects, I think I also did give myself the time to work on some like visual affirmations, like this one you see that is about taking up space. Because I feel like, I feel like the people who were most affected are often people who are Black, who are trans, who are queer, non-binary folks, people of color, and women. And I think from them, I follow a lot of them, of course, online. And I think I learned from them how we can really, there's so much to learn about like joy and care from the way these communities show up for each other, even in such like a precarious moment. Um, and I think it really taught me that healing is about the individual, but it's also about the collective. And at a time where we didn't have the chance to like physically be with each other, there was so many innovative ways that people were kind of doing mutual aid, and it was amazing. And you know, like disabled activists have been like doing this and talking about this for years and decades, but to finally see that like the heteronormative ableist world was catching up was great. And I hope that it continues to stay that way, and we continue to like have all these like
Hopefully
accessible
we did not lose.
What happened? Sorry, did we lose Sheena?
She wanted to share with us, but yeah. Oh, there you go. So now you're back. You froze up for a bit.
Oh, I lost you,
yeah.
and I thought.
Oh my lord! So it was me. I froze. Okay, so I completely missed out the last few minutes. I was
just talking about. Yeah, I heard that, and I was like, did I freeze? But yeah, I was just talking about how disabled activists have been like talking about these needs for using different platforms, etc., for so long, and to finally see people catching up. I hope that we continue to stick to it. Like people who have been saying for so long work from home is not possible have now suddenly been able to kind of make that happen. So yeah, I think it really kind of helped. Like during the pandemic, I really began to like think and read a lot more about this, to engage a lot more with the activism that disabled folks have been doing, and to also just create spaces of like tenderness and softness for myself, just to like get through whatever we're all going through collectively, but in very different ways because of our different realities. So yeah, I continue to create like visual affirmations experience to and share it to also hopefully connect with people if they're also going through something similar. So yeah, it's been like a collective experience like sitting with the sadness and discomfort, and also looking for and rejoicing in moments of joy and care. So yeah, I think that's
All right. Thank you, Sonaksha. I did not freeze this time. I'm good. I heard everything. Great. Yes, Felukah, what about you?
I think pandemic hit me definitely from a different number of different angles, which it did us all. That's one thing it really taught me was patience and, you know, like everyone has been saying, slowing down. It was really hard for me at first because I was in the middle of recording this album, Dream 23, and you know, I had a lot of people telling me that it's just not the right time to release music, that I would not be able to do shows and go on tour, which is typically what happens when you drop an album. And I kind of just stuck to my guns, and I knew that I needed to release art anyways because there would be so much more to keep creating. And that's something, you know, that you've been reiterating, and I appreciate that so much. Is I think as artists, the way we understand the world is through that flow of, you know, in comes the world. There's something that happens magical inside where we start interpreting, breaking things down, questioning, all of that processing. And then what emerges is just this beautiful piece of art that people can relate to, or then also process and then emit art from. Like it's just a crazy, crazy cycle that I would never want to halt. And once you discover that across any medium, I believe artists all feel this way, you can't turn back because you're like, this is such a beautiful way of experiencing the world. And so I went against my label and my everything that was telling me to like maybe wait. Eventually, of course, they supported me, of course, and they were like, yep, if you want to release this now, like it's your decision. And I did, and I did not go on tour. I did no shows, and yet I have no regrets. I've continued recording music, and I continued writing, and yeah, and now that album is out, and whatever happens, happens, you know. And I have to keep creating, and that's the one thing I always, you know, try to tell everybody to do is believe in their work, and then yeah, that's gonna travel just like furthest places on earth that you'd never imagine.
Poetry. Beautiful stuff, Luca. Okay, and with that, we are almost at the end of our session, and this is where all of your comments. So far, hopefully over the last half an hour or so, you've been inserting your questions, perhaps questions that you wanted to ask a specific person, one of the panelists, or all in general. So let's have a look at the questions that you have asked. So I am looking at the screen right now. Okay, all right. So we'll spend about 20 minutes on this Q&A session, and we will try our best to sort of include all of the questions here. But let's start with the first one. Okay, I think we'll start with this. So this is a question that is addressed to all of you. How can we get started following in your footsteps? Wow, that's a big one. What sort of advice would you have for those who want to follow in your footsteps, or for women activists, perhaps, who have previously not considered using art in their work? So that's a really interesting question, because it's either, you know, there are those who just want to do art and they're inspired by your work and they want to do more, or you are referring specifically to activists who want to incorporate art as part of the movement that you're in. So maybe we can ask, I'm looking at all of you. Alaa, go ahead, Alaa.
I feel very weird about giving advice, to be honest. I feel always like I should be getting advice. All right, I'll give you the advice that I give myself, to be honest. I'm trying to do the same thing, which is now I feel like I'm in a place where people are used to seeing a certain content from me, and I'm trying to break that a bit and try to experiment with other mediums as well. So don't be afraid to do that. It's very scary sometimes to do something or work on a medium that you're not used to doing or working on. And most of the time you're not going to be happy with the results. And people see on social media, you see the finished product. You don't see the agony and the self like doubt and the things that happens behind the scenes. And just try to get through that. And yeah, that's probably my advice, which is not so great, but but just basically
You did well.
I'm trying. So just basically do your best in breaking the mold, and just push yourself towards what you want to be, and just even the skills that you don't have, try to learn them as much as you can. Don't be very caught up in feedback, because that's the thing with social media. If you're a social media based artist, you're probably going to be caught up on, oh, this, how many likes did this artwork get versus this artwork. Just try not to think about that so much. One of my favorite work has never been recognized on social media or by other people. So just stay true to yourself and what you like, and just listen to yourself more than you listen to other people, which makes me like that defies the purpose of my advice. But yeah.
Of course not. Thanks, Alaa. What about you, Felukah? What is your advice?
I would say definitely consume art, and be really wary of there's a difference, I think, between reading for pleasure and reading for plunder. When I was studying poetry, I'm a creative writing graduate, like I just finished school, and when I was studying, they taught us that it's like you can read something to enjoy it, or you can read something to really learn from it. And I think if somebody's interested in taking themselves seriously artistically, then you need to really like zone in and be looking at things for that reason. Is what can I learn? What's going on here in this painting, in this song, in this album, whatever it is, and what can I learn, and to and put that, internalize that, and add, of course, your own essence always. And the first thing to even add your own essence, you want to find what that is. So it's a lot of confidence, it's a lot of belief that you are beautiful and unique. And I'm telling everyone on the Zoom link that you are beautiful and unique. So you take that essence and you just hold it close to you, and you keep nurturing it, and you only surround yourself with people who nurture it. It's super important. And yeah, I would just say definitely just dive into what you love and what you believe in. That's what I would say.
All right. Thanks, Felukah. And what about you, Sonaksha?
I think I will echo a lot of what Felukah said, because I think for me, honestly, what I would say is to kind of really bring yourself to whatever you're making. And that really means that bring yourself in whatever you are and whoever you are and however you are in this moment. Because there's space for everyone's stories, and all of our stories deserve to be heard in whatever way we choose to tell them. So yeah, I think I would really say that your story is important too. So if you feel like sharing it, then please share it with the world, because we want to hear it.
Perfect. Thank you, Sonaksha. And Azzmia?
Yes, I really like what you said, Sonaksha, about sharing stories, because every story deserves to be heard. And I think that maybe when you want to do art, you try, like you may try to compare yourself to others, but you have to don't forget to do it for yourself and really enjoy the process of creating, because you learn a lot of things along the way. You will try different things, but it's definitely a journey. And even if the first step might be terrifying at first, you should definitely push yourself and just do it. I guess that you can just do it.
Thank you so much, Azzmia. So yes, let's move on to the next question. So this question is directed to Sonaksha. And the question is by Lima. So Lima asks, how do we stop these comments on the shape of our bodies? Sometimes it's women saying such comments, putting us in defensive mode, and they will claim that our behavior is rude and we're not respecting our elders. So how do we stop this comment?
Oh my God. Okay. I have a lot to say on this, but I'll try and condense it. Yeah, you're totally right. People are constantly commenting on our bodies. In fact, I just had like a doctor's appointment few days ago where my doctor literally just fat shamed me, and she kind of refused medical care to me because I was fat. So unless I lost weight, I don't get medical care. And this is the reality of like many people's lives, and especially a lot of fat people because of their bodies. So there isn't a way to make people stop saying what they're saying. I think what we can do is slowly try and work towards a world that is more fat affirmative, that is more body affirmative, in all the ways possible. Which I think really involves a lot of work on conversations, on really engaging with folks in different spaces, because it's not just about engaging with like your family. It's also about engaging with people like doctors who shouldn't be denying healthcare because of someone's weight. So it is about, I think, trying to have these conversations in different spaces, and whatever way we can really occupy those spaces, and like whatever spaces that we are part of, right? So like if you're part of like a group where you're having a lot of conversations about social justice issues, also bring in fat liberation into that, also bring in body affirmation into that, because I feel like that's what happens. Like even a lot of these spaces that are very like that are working towards social justice can be very anti-fat and aren't very like body affirmative. So I think it's really important for us to like, instead of I would say, instead of like calling out, like let's call in, like a lot of people say, to really have conversations about it and try to change the way we think about it, because we can't stop people from saying things. We can just try and change mindsets in whatever ways we can. So yeah, I think that would kind of be my response to that.
Thank you, Sonaksha. So yes, the next question is concerns with your identity, all your panelists, your identity as a Muslim artist. So this is really interesting, and we can actually break it down to two parts. So we'll just address the first part of the question. And it says here, besides criticism from individuals in society, is there any criticism from the ulama or religious scholars when it comes to your work? And if yes, what form does it take? So I'm really interested with that. Maybe I can ask Felukah. Has there been any criticism from religious scholars?
Not that I know. I mean, I'm not in those circles to really gauge, but I think if there were, I mean, I would take it with the same grain of salt that I would criticism from, I mean, any other institution, really. I don't hold personally the systems of religion on any higher pedestal than the systems of, I don't know, government or of anything, really. Is institution in general. It's something I look to break down. The faith, the spirituality, and the essence of Islam is something I hold very close to myself and my work. But I don't know what religious scholars are saying. I don't know what academic scholars are saying. And no matter what they're saying, I hope it's good. That's it.
Okay, and what about you, Alaa?
Same as Felukah, actually, nothing that I'm aware of. And if there were like any sort of criticism, it's definitely not something that I will also give a special attention to or anything.
Okay, all right. And Azzmia?
No, I didn't receive any, any like criticism from Islamic authorities. So no, I didn't receive anything.
Okay, all right. So that's great. But let's move on to the second part of that questions. How does your Muslim identity interact with your art or challenge it? Okay, we can start with, maybe we'll start with Azzmia.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, especially because I'm really trying in my art, like especially in my lyrics, but also in my visuals. Like, for example, on Instagram or when I do photos, I try to really like to use something that are particular to my culture as a Senegalese woman, because I come from Senegal, and also as a Muslim, because to me we do not have to be shameful of our multiple identities. And I think I'm just on a position right now where I just feel very confident about it, even if it hasn't always been the case, because especially like living in France, it's a country that has a lot of problems with like assuming your identities. And so I want rather to use it like to use like to be an artist, to really use it as a platform to tell people to accept who they are. And I do really think that I assume to be a Muslim, to be a Black woman. And so I think art is a beautiful way to promote it.
Beautiful. And what about you, Alaa?
I don't feel like Islam or being Muslim kind of is very visible looking at my work. I'm a Sudanese woman, and Sudan has Islam maybe or religion at the core of our society. So maybe that intersectionality between culture and between religion is where you can see that overlap, that maybe it is visible in my work. But other than that, I don't feel like it affects it that much or it's visible that much.
Okay. And Felukah, what about you?
I think, yeah, just along the same wavelength. I incorporate it perhaps on a personal level, but I don't make it a point to write from, an objectively just like a Muslim perspective, or to write from whatever it is. And I think the art that I make is I try to keep it universal and just relatable on all fronts, from like any faith background or any cultural background. Of course, I'm talking in Arabic a lot of the times, and I'm talking about my issues as like, a Muslim woman in this world, but the issues themselves are hardly related to Islam. It's really just like greater problems. So yeah, I feel like there's less of distinctions between the exact, religions and cultures, and just something that's really just messed us up everywhere in terms of women, or in terms of women of color. Like hardly a Muslim women problem. بس طبعا يعني لا, but I will say, we worked on مش هستنى with Musawah. Me and my brother wrote a song called مش هستنى, which I think a lot of people here might have listened to. And in it, we do break down a lot of issues that Muslim women face in our communities, in both the private and the public realm. And these are very important things to really break down and to talk about. So when I do something like مش هستنى, or even in a verse in one song, and I talk about, not being able to walk down the streets in my own country freely, that طبعا I'm talking about a specific issue, and I'm talking about Muslim women's experience. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but I guess it changes, depending on the project and what my intention is, to return back to intention.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Now, I have a question from one of the viewers today, and this person asks, what are some great platforms that women can use to express their creative advocacy? What are some great platforms that women can use to express their creative advocacy? Sonaksha, do you have any ideas?
I think I would definitely say social media, though. I mean, I do completely recognize that a lot of women, trans folk and non-binary folk and gender queer folk are all like censored a lot. A lot of their profiles do get censored on various social media platforms. So I recognize that. But I think social media would definitely be one platform, because there is such a large audience there that you can speak to. And I think I think something that's coming up a lot more now, like before we used to have a lot of blogs. I think now there are a lot of newsletters, which is more of like an independent way of reaching out to an audience that's not like moderated by a platform. So I would say like social media, as well as maybe something like newsletters or blogs, would be a great way to kind of share your creative advocacy.
All right, thank you, Sonaksha. And what about you, Alaa?
I actually have nothing to add to what Sonaksha said. Exactly what she said, like social media, blogs, that's like online presence in general. It might be safer or something that you can control a bit more than platforms out there in the real world. So I would say that, yeah, exactly what she said. I have nothing more to add.
Okay, all right, no worries. What about you, Felukah?
I second that as well. I mean, I think the platforms are expanding as we go through time, which is really cool to see. Right now, it's for the most part, yeah, I would say social media. Blogging is cool. There's OnlyFans for those who want to do it, and there's just different.
All right, and Azzmia?
Yes, I think nothing more to add, or maybe just to think about reaching out to your local artistic organizations, maybe if you want to showcase your work.
Okay. Am I frozen? Am I frozen, Sonaksha?
No, you're not frozen. Azzmia's frozen.
Oh no, Azzmia. Okay, but yeah, that's a really great idea to sort of, reach out to creative organizations. And I do believe the same goes as well. I mean, if you want to do, whether it's visual poetry, for me, everything is poetry, but yes, visual arts, music, I think it's always good to sort of, reach out, and have a look around at other people who are doing it as well within the community itself. I think that's really important. Okay, and with that, our time is up. We have so many questions, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to cover all of the questions, but do not be in despair. For all of our panelists today, including myself, we are on social media, and you can definitely ask them as well. I mean, just follow them on their social media platforms, on their social media accounts, and just ask away right over there. So thank you so much to our audience for all the questions. It has been a very engaging, a very enriching session to share with all of you today. And again, if you didn't get to, if you didn't get the chance to ask a question, you can do so by engaging with them, with all of our panelists today on social media. Okay, now, because we're already at the end of it, and I want to sort of bring us back to the real reason why we are having this conversation. And we are looking at that intersections between activism and art. And to do so, I do want to ask one last question. And it's not my question. It's a question that was asked by one of our audience. And it will be really, really great to see what is your thoughts on that. And we can do that by wrapping it up. Yeah, that's a way of wrapping it up. And the question is this. And I'm going to make sure that I have a look at that. Okay, so this question is from the activists. And they ask, what do you want? Well, it doesn't sound like that. I'm sure it's like, what do you want from us? What is your wish list to the female activists on the webinar to affect the change that you want to see? So that's the question that we are asking. And I would love to know what your thoughts are on that. And we're going to start with Felukah. So what can the activists do? What can we offer them? And what can you offer us? Oh no, am I frozen?
No, you're not. I just came to like affirm that you're not frozen.
Yes, thank you, Sonaksha. It happened once. Oh, okay, so I think it's the rain. So let's. Okay.
Felukah's back.
Felukah's back. Okay, and then Felukah's frozen again. It's okay. Let's ask. Oh no. Okay, let's start with Sonaksha. I'll get back to you, Felukah. So Sonaksha, what's your thought on that?
I think a lot of organizations and activists are beginning to incorporate a lot of art in their work. So I would definitely say that would be one thing that that I would love more. Just because, I mean, it's always lovely to kind of reach out to people through art. And I think there's a quote from Tony Cade, which says, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible, and I completely believe in that. So so yeah, I think that would be one thing, and to just like expand the way we think of activism is the other thing I would say. Yeah.
Nice. And what about you, Anna?
Yeah, same. And I love that quote, and I have it on a sticker. The saying. That's a very nice quote.
Me too, me too.
And I would say that we both working mainly for the same purpose, for the same message. So just reach out, like let's work together. It's probably we need each other, like we need the to make a revolution, like Sonaksha said, it's not just reaching out to people just by talking to them. Just try to engage all their senses visually, like through music, through art, and it just makes it, as you said, irresistible, and it makes it sends the message louder and stronger. So yeah, it goes hand in hand, and just working together is basically what we want. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Felukah, you there?
I'm sorry, you guys. My Wi-Fi is
It's
absolute
okay.
trash. I'm guessing the question we were still on was if what our wish list for activists are. I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish I had like actual, I mean, world peace, but no, more specifically, I just everything they've been doing, it's the same effort for artists as it is for activists. We are all artivists, and I mean, there's just so much on my like my mind that it would answer those questions. I don't even know where to start. But just I suppose just like everyone was saying, the open connection between the art and between the activism, humanitarian side of things and the artistic side of things, they're all so cohesive. We're all pushing for love and ihsan and beauty at the end of the day. So yeah, just to keep connected.
Perfect. All right, Azzmia.
Yes, definitely. I feel the same, that the most important thing is to collaborate, or also to find creative ways maybe to collaborate. And I think also one of the most important thing is to support each other and to connect with each other, so that we can, do great things together, actually.
Perfect. Okay. Ooh, all right. Now with that, we are officially there at the end of our session. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you, Alaa. Thank you, Azzmia. Thank you, Felukah. Thank you, Sonaksha. And of course, thank you so much to our audience for spending your time with us today. And please, before you leave, I'd like to ask our tech support to launch the poll right now. Please do take a minute to fill in your feedback to a couple short questions. It won't take long. Let us know about your thoughts and if you have any suggestions that you'd like to make for future events. And while you are filling in the poll, allow me to tell you more about Musawah's campaign for justice in Muslim family laws. In June 2020, Musawah launched the campaign for justice to bring together advocates for family law reform from across 3 regions: Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South and Southeast Asia. Despite the pandemic derailing plans to raise this important issue at the global level and push for change on the ground, activists, scholars, policymakers, and of course, artists are still fighting to build momentum and support for the urgent necessity to reform discriminatory Muslim family laws. Musawah's global conference is the first international meeting that brings us all together under the banner that equality and justice in the Muslim family is both necessary and possible. Are you working on reform in Muslim family laws in your country? Do you want to get involved? Then write to Musawah and join a movement to reform discriminatory Muslim family laws. And with that, if you are interested in another webinar, please do stay tuned, because the next one, which is titled Muslim Women Leading Movements, will be held on 27th of November at 4:30 p.m. Kuala Lumpur time. Thank you everyone again for staying with us for an hour and a half. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to Misawa. And my name is Sheena Baharudin, and have a lovely, lovely day. Take care. Bye.